The people coming in. I want to hear
Yeah, just
this
have.
legendary battle.
Oh yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's not more people.
I think that there may be. There may be. It's all right. Okay. So I got my nice handy dandy pen here and my notepad ready to go. So all right.
All right. Well, you want to give another minute or two for people to jump on, or you want to get going?
We can do 2 more minutes and then we can get started. All right. Can go ahead and get started here.
Right.
So I'll ring and we'll begin.
All right. Oh,
All
let me
right.
make sure I got. Yep, cool. Recording.
All right. Ring, ring.
This is Dawn.
Hi, Don. This is Andra Pickens calling. I believe we had a call scheduled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for calling in on time. I appreciate that. How's your day been treating you?
My day's been pretty good. How about you?
Oh, doing very well. Doing very well. So, thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. I do appreciate it. Uh,
Yeah, no
what
problem.
were you able to watch the entire webinar then?
Yeah, I was able to watch. I think it was like a 45-minute webinar. I was able to watch the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, what about the webinar caught your attention, made you want to, inspect a little further?
I've always been a fan of Bob Proctor and his work. I've been kind of one of those watch from afar guys. I don't know if that makes sense, but I've always been kind of one of those guys that like something and I kind of just follow it from a distance. But I saw that he was putting together this course, and I was like, oh wow, okay, this is definitely something that I need to check out. And then I watched the webinar, and in the webinar, he said a lot of things that made sense. I really never really considered how much mindset played a role in why I haven't really achieved the success I'm looking for. So I'm hoping that maybe something I hear from this call will give me just a little bit more incentive to really want to move forward with this.
Okay, very nice. Well, definitely, I hope that we're able to do the same. And, if not, if this doesn't end up being the way that you'd like to go with things, that's absolutely understandable as well. The point here is just to help you find out whether this is the right way to go or not. That's what I'm here to do. You said quite a bit there that, you do a lot of, watching from afar, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, what made you decide to look into changing that right now?
Well, this whole coronavirus thing has dramatically affected, pretty much everyone. And I'm starting to realize that a lot of the things that we have are really nothing more than just vapors. Just one thing happens and we could lose everything. Like, I don't know if you've seen the unemployment rate, but it is ridiculously high.
Yeah.
Or, I know things are opening up again now, but now people got to go back out, hunt for jobs and stuff like that. And there's still some states that aren't even open yet. So it's like we're not even back to full swing.
Hmm.
Um, so I was looking at that, and that really made me start wondering, like, do I really want my life to be hinged or to be controlled by these kind of elements?
Wow. Wow. That, control is a really strong word for a lot of people. And from the way it sounds, it's, you know, appearing right now for you to want to do something a little bit out of the ordinary to start feeling like you're making, I don't know, a little more of an impact somewhere. That sound about right?
I don't know so much about impact, but I definitely want to. Um, I definitely want to grow, and I definitely want to expand.
Mm-hmm.
I want to. I've never really thought about it too much until this all happened. When I just realized, well, you know, I happen to be one of the essentials, so my job was safe. But what if it wasn't? Safe in terms of me being able to work, not necessarily safe for me to be working. You know, but yeah, I don't know about making impact so much, but I definitely want to make some level of a change, that my life is not so crazily dictated by the things that are outside of what I can
Okay.
control.
Okay. So it's more about freedom then.
Yeah, it's more about freedom.
Okay. Okay. Now, you said that you are one of the essential jobs. What is it that you're doing?
Oh, right now I'm working in a hospital.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
rather essential.
yeah,
I
it's
could
quite
see that.
essential.
What is it that you do there?
I'm a nurse.
That's wonderful. Man, so you having a job like that, I would assume you probably have a heart for helping people. And is that why you got into the
Mhm.
profession?
Yeah, actually, it is. I really love helping people and getting into that. I didn't know I wanted to be a doctor or be in the hospital or whatever. I didn't know that, but it is definitely something that I do because I love helping people.
Great. Well, there's definitely a lot going on right now in the world, and I can see that you're pretty much stuck right in the middle of it. And to have something hit home that hard to make you want to do something drastically different, it must be pretty important to you right now to figure out which direction to go. Then that
Yeah, it's very important. Yeah.
so well. Look, from what you've seen off of the webinar so far, and what you know of Bob Proctor and what we're doing, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being yes, this is what I want, and one being don't call me back, guys. Where do you think you fit in there?
Ooh. Um, I don't know. I say maybe a 5 or a 6. Maybe a little bit. I would say higher on a 6 spectrum. But yeah, definitely. I have a great interest in this, but I'm not entirely sure what I'm getting into. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that's pretty much what we're here on the call for, is to explain a little bit more about what it would be to get into. That way, you can make a good informed decision, right?
Okay.
So, what about what you know so far has you sitting at a 6, though? Why so high?
It's just what he says resonates with me. Again, the whole mindset thing. And when I got into nursing, I didn't realize that I would not have thought of it as a deep seated need to help people. I would have just been like, well, this is always the way I've been, you know. But listening to him, it made me realize that no, actually, I do have that, really deep seated need to help people, and there's more to it than that. It's deeper layers, and it really started bringing my attention to mindset and why like my decisions are so informed on the mindset that I have, like the paradigms that I have, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. We're definitely going to talk about paradigms a little bit later too. So I'm glad you brought that up already.
Okay.
Yeah, paradigms are a very important part of what we teach. And you know what? Maybe we'll talk about it sooner than I think. What questions do you have about what we're doing here that I can answer for you? I want to get you as close to that 10 as we can. What do you think?
Well, first and foremost, I guess the first question I have is, now, how long is the program for?
So we've got a 6-month mentorship program here. Is that a fair enough time for you with a mentor on this level, or were you looking for something
No,
shorter,
I
longer?
think 6 months is plenty of time. How often in a week?
So, well, that depends on how you look at things. There are 12
Okay.
lessons to the program, and they're about 15, 20 minutes each.
Hmm.
We recommend watching them twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. So you've got an hour a day to go through those classes. And then we meet every Monday evening at 7 p.m. Central. So you need an hour for that meeting on Monday nights as well.
Okay.
Is Monday
So,
nights okay for you for those kind of meetings?
well, yeah, yeah, that's fine. I'll have to make sure that I may have to work on maybe one of those nights or something. Usually, I don't work Mondays, but sometimes I get called in. So, yeah, I can. If I'm not working, I'll definitely make it. Is there something for me in the event that I'm not able to make it?
Absolutely. Yeah, recordings are emailed out to all members.
Okay, great.
Yep. We've got that covered for you as well.
Okay, so when you say we're meeting on Monday, who am I meeting with?
So Brian Dalmaso is he was in the webinar there. Is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's one of Bob's direct mentees. He is certified and licensed through PGI to be able to reteach the Thinking into Results program. And so
Okay.
there's him as along with other people who are in the group. There's usually anywhere between 30 and 50 at one time that are there. So we keep it a pretty small setting. That way you can ask your questions and have that little bit of one-on-one time with Brian during those meetings yourself as well.
I just want to make sure I heard this right. You said 30 to 50 people?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. That's what's normally on the Monday night meetings.
All right.
Were you looking for something on a more personal level, or is a group setting all right?
I was thinking to be a little bit more of a personal mentorship, but if it's a group setting and I can have direct access to the person who's going to be involved, I don't see a problem with that.
Okay. Yeah, you'll definitely have direct access. There's a Facebook group as well that you can send messages and ask questions. So there's always a way to reach out and talk to Brian or Maddie, his daughter, who also helps facilitate the program.
Oh, it's a family thing. Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
great. Okay. All right. So
Absolutely.
you said 6 months for the whole program.
Mm-hmm.
How so after the 6 months, what happens then? Like,
Okay.
is there something like a next level, or do yeah, I just don't know how this all works.
Okay. So there's two answers to that. Essentially, when it comes to the Thinking into Results program, the 12 lessons that are the video lessons that Bob Proctor has done, you'll have
Mhm.
access to those for life. Those are yours. Right? Workbook, worksheets, videos, all. The 6 month time with Brian, however, that's the end of that unless you decide you want to reinvest in it again. However, if
I
you
see.
would like more of a personal time, he does have mentorships for that. They're just at a little bit of a higher investment level. So
Okay.
that's an option should you choose to do so or want to know more about it before we're done here.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
That sounding
We
about like
can.
what you're looking for then?
It does sound a little bit more about what I was thinking, but I'm definitely interested in hearing more about the rest of this before we go there, because what you guys may be doing with the whole group thing may be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, I
Okay.
haven't done it yet, so it's kind of hard.
Right. That's understandable. And before we're done here, I can even break down, the lessons so you've got a little bit better of an idea as well.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Sure. So not a problem with that at all. I don't want to jump into that, too quick. I want to make sure that everything else about it is, where you need it to be before we spend that kind of time on it. But I will definitely get those covered.
Okay.
So, with what you know so far, then just a little bit. Are we bumped up a little past that 6 yet?
Yeah, we're about a 7.
All right, all right. So
we're
we're
about
getting closer. That's great.
yeah, we're going up.
Have you ever done any kind of mentorship or anything like this before?
No, outside of school, no. I've never done anything like this.
Okay. So have you thought about any type of budget or anything that you'd like to put into something like this?
I've always been a pretty avid saver of money. I'm pretty frugal. I don't spend a ton of money on things I don't need. Although I do have a pretty heavy weakness for Indian food. But other than that, I don't really spend money on frivolous things. So I do have some money saved up. So
Okay.
yeah, I've been looking for something to invest in, and I certainly believe that investing in yourself is a worthwhile investment.
Absolutely.
So depending on how this goes, I mean, this may be the thing I spend it on. I don't
Okay.
know.
All right. So Right now, with your nursing job at the hospital and all that, do you support anybody else, spouse, kids?
Oh, no, I don't support anyone else, but I do have a relationship. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And now in that relationship, I mean, I just want to make sure that I'm respecting boundaries appropriately.
Mhm.
Is spending a significant amount of money on something like this going to be something that you'll need to speak with them about before you could make the decision on?
No, it's not. We have our separate money and stuff like that, so it's not going to be a big deal.
Okay,
Plus, she already knows that I've been looking into something, so
good. What
it's
does
not
she think
like
about
she's
it?
not informed. On the fence,
Okay.
very on the fence. She's like, if it works, great, but I hear a lot of stories about these kind of things turning out to be scams, and
Hmm.
people don't really get, you know what I mean? Uh, but I don't. Something I've always kind of been in the mindset of is like, if something was truly a scam, like a scam to the point where people don't get anything in return for their money. Um, if something was ever truly a scam, they wouldn't remain in business.
Right.
And it's kind of like, well, if that's the case, then the grocery stores scam us all the time, right?
No kidding. Hey,
So,
depending on what you think of this, new deal they've got this week, they might be.
right, right. So no,
Okay.
I'm not really of the mindset of. I mean, plus Bob Proctor's been around for an incredibly long time,
Yeah.
and he's highly reputable. You can fact check a bunch of stuff in relation to him. So yeah, I've done my share of research, and he's probably about the most legit I've seen.
Okay. Well, it's good that you've done some research and that you've looked around on it. It's always good to be as informed as you can,
Yeah, I
especially.
mean, you see negatives, of course.
Oh yeah.
You see bad things, but I think that if things were always, I'd be more suspicious of things if they were always glowingly positive.
Right.
Like it was always just pluses, like everything. This guy is so incredible. Then I would be more suspicious. But when there's positives and negatives, it just means that people are human.
Yep. Absolutely. I love the way you word that. Just shows that people are human. That's great. So, knowing what you do know, the little bit that you do know, what exactly are you looking to get out of a program like this? What results would you like to see?
You know, I'll be honest. I'm not the most productive person. Uh, I'm hoping that something like this can help improve my productivity, and maybe I can learn something that would help me generate a lot more money. Like I like my job, but you don't you sacrifice a lot of time being a nurse and you don't have much time to do much else. You know, you're at the hospital most of the time. Sometimes you're staying there for longer than what your shift is because you never know what's going to happen. And as much as I love it, I would much prefer to have something that was a little bit more within my control.
Hmm.
So I would say that would be a big thing I'd be looking for as well. Would be something that would be a little bit more within my control, and define ways that I could possibly generate the same amount of money I'm making now, or even more a month.
Okay. All right. So yeah, definitely things that all work into mindset and things we talk about. Now, you mentioned a couple of things that are rather important there. And the first one I just wanted to ask about, you said something about, working on productivity and
Yeah.
understanding that. Tell me a little bit more about that. What do you mean? What's not productive about what you're doing now?
Well, I do go to work and I do my job, very diligently. But when I
Right.
get home, I'm kind of just lazy. I just, play video games all the time, and I don't really think much about other stuff except for when I'm listening to some of the stuff on YouTube, Bob Proctor and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's kind of what I mean. Like I know that I could probably be spending that time doing something a little bit more productive, and if I had something that would um, something that would push me to become better, then I feel like that would be a much better use of my time. And if this works out the way you say, like you're saying that I listened to a couple of the classes and stuff, and I can only guess that they're probably rather lengthy. That's certainly a way of occupying my time and implementing new things. So
Okay.
yeah, that's
So,
that's kind of what I meant.
all right. Well, yeah, the classes are only about 15, 20 minutes long. So they're really
Oh,
not.
really?
Yeah, they're really not. The point is to make them into bite-sized little bits that you're looking at twice a day. You watch the same lesson. Lesson 1, you're going to start with twice a day for 14 days straight before you move on to
Okay.
lesson 2. So the space-time repetition helps build it in.
I see.
So it's a little bit different there. But, you mentioned that you think there's other things you could be doing that would be more productive. Do you have things in mind already that you think you should be doing, or are you still looking to find those?
I'm still looking to find those.
Okay.
It's one of those I haven't found it yet.
Pardon me. Okay. All right. And then the other thing that you mentioned in that whole thing there was a lot about wanting more control over your time,
Okay.
over your finances, right? So it sounds like control is a really important thing to you right now. Is that right?
Yeah, it's probably top of the list. Yeah.
Okay. So if you don't mind me asking, what is it that has you feeling out of control right now?
Working in a hospital is incredibly varied work. We very rarely do we have a day where nothing happens.
Right?
You know, very rarely. Been there for 3 years, and every day, for the most part, I think there's been maybe 2 days, and I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that. Maybe 2 days where it wasn't overly packed or something terrible happened or whatever. So there's that. You don't really know how long you're going to be there. Like you say, okay, you're on shift for 8 hours, but you're there for 13 or 14. And you're working like 6 days a week. It's quite common. Or if someone happens not to be there, they call you in. There's no control over that. So, and yeah, the money's decent, but it's not really about the money. It's more so like it's not like I can just go in there and be like, all right, guys, I'm just gonna work for a couple hours today and I'm gonna leave. All right. It's not like
Right.
I can do that. It's not like I can do that. I wish,
Eh,
but I can't.
Might not be
So
able to go back in tomorrow if you tried to pull that one, would you?
yeah, exactly. I would not be going in tomorrow. That's for sure.
All right. So with the control being, the number one thing that you're looking to get out of this at this point, I mean, you say it's number one and it's pretty far up there, but how important is it really to get something done about it now?
Sooner the better. If I can find something that really resonates with me that sticks, then yeah, I would
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
All
And the
right.
closest thing to that has been this program.
Yeah. Well, glad. I'm glad that you see that. So that's going to lead us into, the paradigm talk just a little bit there because, you mentioned paradigms earlier. What's your understanding of a paradigm?
That it is a series of behaviors that we execute based on, and this is a very loose
Hmm.
explanation, so I'm not entirely sure I'm right, but it's a series of behaviors that we execute unconsciously and without actually being able to know the reasons behind that, our paradigms don't change. So we have like a series of behaviors that we do. So, like for instance, if I get up and go to get a glass of orange juice, and every day at the same time I get a glass of orange juice at the same exact time,
Hmm.
that's a paradigm
Right.
that I initiate.
It is absolutely. So yeah, you're very close on. I mean, a paradigm is really just a cluster of habits that are fired off automatically as a singular program.
Right.
Right? That's exactly what it is. So yes, getting up and going and pouring that glass of orange juice and coming back, the walking there, the pouring it, the walking back, and most likely, if you have something in that nature, you're probably picking up the same glass every day as well. You
Yeah.
know. Yep.
I say that from experience.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So that's just stuff that gets built in. You're right. So now you did mention something in there that paradigms don't change,
Right.
right? But they can be changed. That is exactly what we teach how to do,
Mm.
right? So when have you ever tried to change a habit or quit doing something that you're used to doing?
Yeah, I've tried that a lot,
Yeah.
and I have done it. I have done it with some things. There are some things that I haven't.
Hmm.
But if I'm being completely honest, I don't think I worked hard enough. So
Right.
I don't think I just kind of went. Well, it's fine, whatever.
Hmm.
And then I keep doing it. But
Right.
then that's kind of where the mistake is.
Yeah. We call that the knowing doing gap. We all do it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I know I shouldn't, but yeah, whatever. Yeah, it happens.
Right.
Right. So changing habits is difficult. It's a hard thing to do sometimes because you're forcing yourself to try to be something that your subconscious mind doesn't agree with.
Right.
Right? So you are literally putting yourself in direct conflict with yourself. Our program works from the inside out. So we work on shifting the paradigms and the subconscious thought so that the habit changes just kind of take place. They just become who you are as you're moving towards whatever goals you decide to set for yourself through it. That make sense?
Yeah, that should kind of make a little bit more sense, which is why the lessons are broken up over a
Mm-hmm.
period of time, kind of built in that. That's the way I'm connecting it. I could
Yeah.
be wrong.
No, that's absolutely right. The space-time repetition makes it to where you don't have to struggle to study it and to learn it. It just kind of gets put there, and each lesson builds on the next, so that you're just continuing to have it there, and it just becomes part of what you do and where you go. How does
Okay,
that sound
sounds
so
good.
far?
That sounds really good. That sounds almost exactly about what I'm looking for here.
Nice, nice. So, the what's kept you from making a decision to do something about any of this stuff any sooner up until now? I mean, I know you mentioned the coronavirus thing kind of triggered something of it. Was that
Yeah.
literally the
Um,
first time you thought about it?
no, I thought about it before. I thought about it maybe a year ago. I saw something pretty gruesome in the ER, and it kind of made me start wondering, do I really want to be looking at this for the rest of my life? You know, um, but yeah, the coronavirus definitely pushed it over the edge for sure.
What kept you from making a decision to do something about it a year ago when that happened?
I'm not entirely sure. I thought about it at length, and I guess I kind of do know. I invested so much in going to school and so much time and effort and stuff, and I don't want to feel like that went to waste. You know, you have a medical degree, and then you don't do anything with it. It's kind of I wouldn't want to be in that predicament. But then when I started realizing, and again, the coronavirus made me realize this, that everything's fleeting. You never know. Yeah, I'm looking at, yeah, my job is okay, but then I look at all the other people whose jobs are not okay, and there are days where I just don't want to be at my job because I don't want to see what I end up seeing.
Right.
I just don't want to do that. So I don't really want to see a lot of that, and I think that kind of does play a big role in my decision here too. Is that I'm just kind of tired of seeing certain things.
I can't say that I blame you there. I couldn't imagine some of the stuff that you probably see in there, and I'm not going to ask about it. It's not something that we want to be thinking about right now.
Yeah, it's not.
I get that. So,
It's definitely not on the top of my list of things to think about.
no, probably not. But at the same time, I would like to ask you mentioned not wanting to waste the time that you had put into the schooling and to learning all of this. Um, have you thought of other ways that you might be able to use that knowledge and your care to help people you want to do for others in a different aspect that wouldn't tie you down to a hospital?
Yeah, that's a great question, but no, I haven't thought of any other way.
Okay.
It just didn't. I don't think the possibility would have dawned on me
Okay.
at all.
That's another
At
piece
all.
of what you'll get with us is heightened awareness and opened up, thought process to different opportunities and options that, learn to start thinking in just a little bit different way. Because, I mean, look, I'm sure you would agree with me, Andre. If you keep doing things the way that you're doing them now, you're going to keep getting the same results, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. It would be kind of weird if I said all the stuff I said and didn't agree with that
Right?
statement. You know?
Exactly. Exactly. Hey, you know what? Sometimes the obvious slips past us if it's not pointed out, though. So I always like to ask and
Very
make sure
true.
we're on the same page.
Very true. Very true. I completely agree with that. Yeah.
So definitely not trying to question your intelligence any.
Well, that's good.
So
I
look,
didn't feel like you were questioning my
good.
intelligence at all, so it's fine.
All right. Well, look, I just want to say here that with a program like this, when you're talking about mindset, you're talking about shifting paradigms, you're creating the life around you that you would prefer to have. It takes a commitment to do this. You've already mentioned, productivity being an issue, right?
Yeah.
And so when somebody's only interested in something, they'll follow it for a little bit, but then as soon as things start to get hard, they back off and they fade back into their old paradigms and they start falling into old habits. But when somebody's truly committed to it, they'll continue to head towards that goal no matter what obstacles get in the way. So, are you really ready to commit to starting to be more productive and actually follow the program should you decide to get involved?
Yeah, if I decide that this is what I want to do, absolutely, I would put it in 110%.
Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure. I don't want anybody getting involved with us and getting a couple of weeks in and then deciding, you know what, I'm not even going to finish it and not give it the chance to fully work and do what it can do for you.
Yeah, it seems like a
Right.
colossal waste of time and money.
Yep, I agree completely, but unfortunately, we've had people do it. So
That's a shame, actually.
it is. It is. So, well, look, based on everything that you've said so far, wanting to take back control of your time, wanting to start opening your eyes up to some more opportunities and start to change some of those paradigms so that you can become more productive and see other ways of helping people that don't require you to be, locked down to a hospital in somebody else's schedule. I think what we've got here is going to help you to be able to get beyond that. Now, just imagine with me for just a minute, if you would, if you go through this program over these next 6 months and you get to a spot where you've found another opportunity to use your skills in a way that feels more fulfilling for you, doesn't take up quite as much time, still produces an income that you're very comfortable with, if not maybe even a little more than where you're at now,
Mhm.
right? What would your life look like 6 months from now if this does exactly what we say it will?
Well, I'm not really much of a future thinker, but I would say that things would probably be a lot better if I could find something, a way that I don't know, I could get out of what I'm currently doing within the next 6 months and into something that's more fulfilling. I think that would be by far the ideal scenario.
Okay.
For sure. I'd certainly be able to have more time with my girl. I'd probably have more time to play video games. And just being honest, man.
No,
Like,
absolutely. Hey, by the time we're done, you might not want to spend your time there anymore.
you know what? You might be right. You might be right. You
Not
might
that
be
there's a
right.
problem with playing a game every now and then to relax. Definitely, I'm not trying
Absolutely not. No way.
to.
No way. Hey, I don't think I'll ever quit,
No, I don't
completely
think I
out of
will
it.
either.
Sure. Oh, you play video games. Awesome.
Absolutely. So,
It's awesome.
hey, yeah, we all got to have our release, our relaxed time, right?
Right.
All right. Well, then I think if you don't have any other major questions about what we've got, I'd like to give you the breakdown of what the 12 lessons are right quick, because I know you asked for that earlier and I told you I'd get to it. Did you have anything else that you wanted me to answer before that?
Yeah. So you said that there was a Facebook group. This was just something I wanted a little bit more clarification
Hmm.
on. Yeah, you said there was a Facebook group where people can communicate or whatever. Do people openly speak in the Facebook group, or is it just really there for people to keep contact with, like to just get announcements and stuff?
Right. No, no. People openly discuss things in the Facebook group quite often. Um,
Okay, all right. I'm
takeaways.
just wondering. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, just saying that takeaways from the classes, questions specifically about classes, things of that nature. People are posting all the time, and it's good to have that not only accountability
Mhm.
to somebody that is expecting to hear about your takeaways and what you're getting out of it, or your response to theirs to show the support for somebody else, right?
Oh, is that common?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
We.
it's just that and I just so I can explain why I'm asking that question. It's just that I want to make sure that anything related to this just is that people are actually there to support each other, and it's not just kind of like, all right, well, guys, you're just kind of left to your own devices. Does that
That's
make sense?
completely understandable. That does. That makes sense.
Okay.
But from the sounds of it, you've had some experience in something of that sort.
Not myself, but I have. Yeah, I mentioned my girl earlier.
Hmm.
She has had some experience with that. She took a course and that kind of happened. So that's why I ask.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, support and helping people to succeed definitely important for us.
Okay.
We're there, and you'll have direct access to Brian, myself, um, anything that's different than what we've spoke about, I would definitely hope you would come to me so I could discuss it with you because yeah, integrity is utmost importance for us.
Okay, great, excellent.
Awesome.
But that's the only question I had.
Okay. All right. So just real quickly, I'm going to run down each of the lessons. If there's any of them that you hear you want more information about, a little bit more of what it means or what we cover in it, please feel free to jump in and let me know. Okay.
Okay, yeah,
So,
no problem.
yep. Lesson one is how to find and set worthy goals for yourself. That way, you're stretching as far as you need to. Second lesson is I mentioned earlier the knowing doing gap. We've all done it. We laugh at our kids when we do it. Why did you do that? I don't know. Right?
Yeah, we're just as guilty.
But we do it ourselves, exactly. So this addresses how to shrink that knowing doing gap a little bit so you do become more productive.
Right.
The third lesson is how to use your mind to create the results you want instead of letting results create the decision. Um, Fourth lesson is how to untap one's true potential by connecting with the subconscious mind and starting to rewrite new paradigms. The fifth lesson is,
Hold
pardon?
on. I'm just. Could you repeat that one?
The fourth
The
one?
fourth one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's how to untap one's true potential. It's where we really start to dig into paradigms and start to shift them a bit so that you open up, you know, your confidence and your understanding and opportunities of what you can do.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Got it.
Yep. The fifth lesson is the trick to staying in charge, no matter the circumstances, learning to control, the emotions, which I'm fairly certain you've got a very good handle on, keeping yourself under control with some of the stressful situations you're in your line of work.
Yeah, I can't afford to be flipping out at work.
Right, exactly. So
Although there are some days that make me want to do that, I
I can
can't
only
really afford
imagine,
to
man.
do
Sure, there are.
that.
Uh,
Yeah.
but that's great. So you're already a step ahead in some respects with that. So the sixth lesson is how to develop yourself into a strong leader. Right? Do you know anybody who is fairly wealthy who's not a decent leader?
I've never heard of one.
No? Well, okay. That's exactly why we teach it. You got to be a good leader. You've got to be able to lead. Uh, Lesson 7 is how to overcome fear and procrastination. It's what Bob calls the terror barrier and how to get beyond that. Lesson 8 is how to align your new beliefs and behaviors so that you get the results that you truly want out of it. And then 9 is understanding attitude and perspective. That way you can constantly find the good in what's going on. Lesson 10 is how to make quantum leaps. Right? Why set a goal for being able to get to a certain spot, like say $10,000 a month or so, and when you could have set it for 50, right? You can take those quantum leaps. You don't have to do it incrementally. Lesson 11 is my personal favorite. It's the one that I try to follow the best I can on every one of my calls, and it's called the impression of increase. It's just making sure you leave everybody you're in contact with better off than what you got them with. So something I'm sure, again, you do damn near every day
Yeah,
at
I do
work.
that already. I do
Yep,
that already.
absolutely. And then lesson 12 is masterminding principles, helping you learn to compound your results by using the power of a network.
Hmm.
So as after hearing the list of the classes and what lessons we're going over, is all of that still resonating with you pretty well?
Yeah. Although the ordering seems a little weird, but maybe I'm sure there's a reason for
Mm-hmm.
that. The order seems like really that one before that one or after that one. But I'm sure there's a reason for it. I'm not an expert. I don't know anything.
Yep.
I have no way to say one way or the other. But the order seems a little off to me for some. But again, what do I know?
Yeah.
So I'm the one on the call, right?
Quite
Okay.
honestly, I couldn't tell you why the order specifically what it is either. I just know that they're built on top of each other for some purpose. So
Okay.
I get that.
Did you go through the course?
All right, I have. I'm 4 months in to the six
Oh,
months,
four
so I
months.
haven't
Okay.
even finished it yet.
And how's it been working for you?
Amazing. It truly has. It's been life changing from not only income and work, but also just happier in general, leading more of a life that I feel like I'm in charge of and pleased with, better relationships with my children and my family. It's been just absolutely amazing. I wouldn't be here on the call talking to other people about it if it hadn't been drastic enough for me to be worth it.
I would hope so because you're trying to peddle a product that you haven't actually done. That would be
Exactly.
kind of a problem.
It is. It is. And there's plenty of people out there who do it, and that's why they can't answer those kind of questions properly for you.
Fair. You know what? Fair enough. I appreciate your honesty.
Absolutely. So, in your opinion of what you know from what we do so far, does this sound like this program can help you to achieve some of the goals that you've mentioned?
Every second that we talk about it, it's sounding like that it could. It definitely sounds like it.
So, why do you feel that way? Why do you feel that it could get you there? What about it's really standing out?
Like I said, I've been following Bob for a while. I hold him in very high regard as a person who a thought leader, I guess is the term. But I definitely hold him in high regard for that. And a lot of what you're saying here, I was really wondering what was going to be covered in this. And I know you can't give me the details because then what's the point of me going into the course, right? So, which is fine. But as I look at this, and because I took a lot of notes, and as I kind of go through all of this, it definitely sounds like something that I could do that would get me on the track to where I'm at. Like you sound like a guy who's pretty genuine,
Thank you.
and I don't think that. I mean, yeah, everyone's got to make their bucks. Yeah, you're gonna get a commission, but that's okay. Because again, at the end of the day, I don't think that's why you're on the call though. You don't sound like that kind of guy.
That's good.
So, um, and if you are, you're a really good actor. But
I don't know that anybody could pretend that far, but maybe.
no, I agree. I don't think someone could pretend that far. So yeah, I'm very interested in what you guys got going on here.
All right. So, I guess the last thing that really needs to be covered then is going to be the investment to get into the program, right?
Right.
We've already talked a little bit about budget wise. You said you do have some stuff put back. So, just
Mm-hmm.
to make sure you are willing to invest time and money in order to get some of this situation taken care of and put yourself on that better path, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. Now, this is why you talk to folks and make sure that you're committed and where you're at, because if you're not committed to putting in the time and the finances, we're wasting our time here. Right?
Absolutely.
So,
I agree.
all right.
If
Well,
I thought this was BS, I would have hung up on you and
I appreciate that. I'd rather have somebody hang up if they feel that way than to waste my time too. Right? I
Right.
mean, that's
Yeah.
just being nice.
Right.
So, look, the investment to get involved is only 10,000.
For some reason I was thinking it'd be more. I was thinking like 25 or something. Uh yeah, 10. That's not what I was thinking.
Well, I appreciate that, and yeah, we get that quite a bit. Everything that we teach and what we do is valued at a rate that's probably priceless in most people's lives.
Right.
I know it has been for mine.
Right. Right. Okay.
So,
So how does the payment setup work?
if you can do 10,000 flat, then that's it. There it is. If not, we split it up. Now, splitting up the payments does take it out to 11,000. Just there's admin fees, finance fees, all that crud, right? So,
Hmm.
$3,000 deposit gets you access to everything. You get started today, and then we can either do 1350 a month for 6 months or 670 a month for a year. Which one sounds
Yeah.
better for you?
I kind of like the 3,000. I don't mind paying a little bit more. It would actually be a lot easier on my finances.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like the 3,000, and then whatever the you said, what was it, 1675? Is it
It's
you said? What was it?
1350 for
1350.
6 months or 670 for a year.
Okay, 670. That's what it was. Okay, so yeah, 1350. I could do that. So yeah, we now I do have a question. If for some reason I could pay off the rest of it, I'm not saying that I could, but if there was some way that I could do that, if I
Mm-hmm.
could pay off the rest of it, would it stay at the 10K or would it just go to the 11?
No, that we can put it at the 10. If at any point in time you come up and say, "Hey, here's all that I've got left," and you can put the lump sum on it, we will leave it right at the 10 even for doing that.
Okay.
Yep, you can
So that
contact us
sounds
at
good.
any point in time to do that.
Okay. All right. Then yeah, that sounds really good. Okay.
Awesome.
So I'm not sure I would be able to do that, but in the event that I was, I just
Right.
wanted to make sure that that was available.
Absolutely. It'll be there. So for that initial 3,000, how would you like to cover that today? You got Visa, MasterCard?
We can stop there. We don't need to go
All
any further
right.
than that. All right. All right. Excellent work. I gotta give you a lot of props. I took a lot of notes though.
Oh,
But
good. I knew you would.
I took a lot of notes.
I know the
But
double questions. I caught it halfway through the call myself.
Okay, well that's good that you caught that one. But I got a lot more notes than that.
No, that's good. I'm sure of it.
I got a lot of notes. But other than that, it was quite good. Quite good. So, all right. Before we do, does anyone have anything they'd like to say in relation to the role play they just heard?
Great stuff.
Yeah,
It was very good. It was very good. Very, very good.
excellent. Yeah, I thought it was quite good. Anyone else? Don't be shy.
Don, how do you manage to keep all the details, like what he was saying and everything? You write it, you note it down, or like how you
Yes.
keep everything in mind?
Oh,
Take
he was
notes.
definitely taking notes.
Okay.
Have to take notes, man.
Absolutely taking notes.
Always.
Because the attention to detail was really good. Like, you know, you were like picking up the small things.
I missed a couple.
Yeah, he did.
I know I did. I didn't grab at him as soon as I should have.
Right. Yeah, he definitely missed some. Actually, missed one very major thing, but that's okay because I don't think it was necessary. I had a very strong pre-existing interest, and it wouldn't have served much for him to dig into it. Although there was one particular thing I felt that you should have asked about, and you didn't ask, but we can get into that later when I get into the notes. But overall, it was a very good call. Anyone else have anything they wanted to say or ask or whatever? Don't everyone raise their hand at once.
Hey, I came in late, so
Okay, well, based on what you heard after coming in late, do you have anything you'd like to say?
um I'm just wondering why he went through each module of the program.
I asked him earlier in the call.
Oh, okay. Because I was confused. Like, that's not normally what I know that he would do.
Right, but I asked him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But no, that I would never do that either. I would never do that myself. That's volunteering a lot of information. But I did ask earlier in the call, so that's why it was fine.
Yeah, I definitely would not have done so without that prompting.
Right. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get into some of these notes here. All right, so Mr. Don.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is a recording of it.
Yep.
You'll be able to hear this and the feedback on the recording. All right, Mr. Don. You are incredibly personable. It's almost sickening. You are incredibly personable. You are, I would say, of anyone that I have role play with or been on a call with, you are the easiest person to talk to. By far. It's not even close. It's like you don't even try. Um, you're yeah.
Yep, it's just who I am.
Yeah, it's very ingrained in you. It just is. So you're a very, very personable person. You connect very easily. It's although I will say that I felt like in the beginning the connection wasn't immediately there. But you definitely gained it over the course of the call. And then sometimes it's not going to be there immediately. It just isn't. Because I did come in with some level of skepticism, although but I felt like the level of skepticism, I came in with like healthy skepticism, with
Mhm.
not over amounts of skepticism. So I felt like you handled that quite well. So I felt like that. I did feel you changed this later, and I was glad that you did. I did feel that you were a bit too dominant in the beginning,
Mhm.
because your tone was completely dominating mine. So I felt like you changed that later. It wasn't so bad. It was well much more friendly. Like towards like even after I would say the first couple of minutes, it got more friendly and more personable. So it wasn't so bad. But I did feel like you kind of dominated me a little bit in the beginning, because I was speaking with a pretty low tone. So I did feel like that. Um, One thing that I wasn't a huge fan of, and this is, you know, I have to, you did something after what I'm about to say that almost negated it. But I wasn't a huge fan of the assumptions that you made. I felt like a lot of the assumptions that you were making were based on your own projections rather than what I was saying. An example of that was when you said about a direction I wanted to go, that I was looking to make an impact. I never said
Yep.
anything about making an impact.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was based on your own projection rather than what I said.
Poor word
So
choice. Caught it the second I said it.
okay. So I was like, well, I didn't say that.
Yep.
But the thing that you did immediately after it that almost negated it, and you did this almost every time you made an assumption, was that you did it in a humorous manner. And it was almost like you didn't assume anything, even though it was still an assumption, which I think is kind of cool, actually. I never thought to do that. That's a very interesting tactic. That's a really good one. I really like that. It's just, again, I could have done without the putting words in my mouth. That part didn't really sit well with me too much.
I'll have to
Um,
ask a little bit more about that because I thought fairly certain that even when I did say something like that, I asked, "Is this right or not?" Wasn't
no,
trying
no,
to
you
make it an
did. No, no,
assumption.
no, 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 no. You did. I'm not saying that you didn't. It's well, most of the time you did, but in this particular case, this one where you said, "Well, what it sounds like to me," blah, and then you want to make an impact,
Right.
and
That
then you
was.
say,
Mhm.
"Is it that one case you did not? Every other case you did, and that's why it wasn't a big deal for
Right.
you."
Okay. And that's I was completely uncomfortable with that whole statement because I knew I screwed it up the second the word came out.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good that you recognize it. It's good self-awareness. But that one right there was a major like, well, wait a second. I didn't say that. So
Makes sense.
that I could have done without. But that was the only instance of you putting words in my mouth. Or a word,
Yep.
so to speak. But that was the only instance of that. Every other assumption you made was definitely based on something I said. So that was fine. And even then you say, correct me if I'm wrong, or some kind of a buffer statement that got in the way of it. So it wasn't like you just said, well, this is the way it is. Isn't that right? No, I didn't.
Good.
Because
Good.
if you had done that,
Yes.
it would have been a completely different phone call.
Yeah.
But you didn't do that.
All right. Good. Yeah. I want to
So
make sure
I
of
was
that
completely
myself.
okay with that.
Cool.
Yeah. Every other time was completely fine. I had no problem with it. Again, with that plus the fact that you did it in a kind of humorous way, that really lightened the call a lot. This guy was a pretty easy close.
Yeah.
He was pretty easy from the jump, but I like the fact that you kept checking the scale of where I was. That I thought that was fantastic. I was like, that's a really good idea. Keep checking the scale. And you were just like, oh, did we bump it up just a little bit? That was good. And you didn't do it to excess, though, which if you had done it to excess, it would have been annoying. But you
Right.
didn't do that.
Definitely don't ask that after every question.
Yeah. Oh, boy. We would have had a completely different conversation about it. So that was really good.
Nice.
Okay, so when I really kind of so there's one thing I really wish you had asked me about. There's actually a couple of things I wish you had asked me about that you didn't really go into. The first thing is when I double checked to ask you the number of people that were going to be involved in the Monday thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first thing because you said 30 to 50 people and you kept going. And then I stopped you and said, oh, wait, did you say 30 to 50 people? And you said, yeah, but then you just kept going.
I asked then if you were expecting a group thing or a
Yeah, you
more
did ask
personable.
me that. And I did say that I was expecting something a little bit more personal.
Right.
But I would have asked if in my case, I would have preferred you had asked me specifically about the numbers
Okay.
because I reiterated, I had some hesitation at the
Mm.
point of the numbers of people.
That's
So I would have, although again, you did ask me, was I expecting something a little different? And I was like, yeah, I was actually expecting a little bit more of a personal thing, but I never got a why. You never asked me why I was expecting that. And so that's where kind of like the problem there is. I just kind of
Yep.
would have wanted you to dig a little bit into that. Why I was expecting something a little bit more personal, but I didn't. As the prospect, I didn't want to derail your flow, so I just kept going with it. Guess what gym type I was? So, just for anyone in the room who was
letting your true self out a little bit more.
Yeah, I was quite myself during that. So, but yeah, I was definitely showing signs of trepidation towards the number, but I didn't want to derail your flow. And you did, and like I said, you did kind of go into that, but I just wish you had asked me why. I wanted something a little bit more personal.
Yep. Got to ask whys more often. I agree.
Yeah. So as far as the point that Radhika brought up, where she said, I did write a note about this. So the point that she brought up was talking about the lessons, right?
Yep.
The way that went was that you had suggested that you could give me that information. And thus I did ask for it, but I did not initially ask for that information.
Right.
So, but I was okay with that information. So what I wanted to say here was this is one of the things that could have been a pitfall. Just because it was volunteering information that I did not actually ask for.
Right.
And I didn't ask for it initially, but I did ask for it afterwards. So but it was fine because it was something I was just interested in. But I could have just, you know, kept harping on it or something.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. Now, the only reason why I ever bring that up, though, is just because I know when I say 10K, somebody's going to ask, wait a minute, what the heck am I getting out of that? So I'd rather just cover it beforehand.
Well, no, and that's fine. That's fine. And I definitely, I did not personally have an issue with it as the prospect.
Right.
I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah. Volunteering, got to be careful with.
About voluntary information. That just happened to be the right information to volunteer for this prospect.
Nice.
But which also comes to another note that I had, which I felt like you're very good at reading the prospect. You read me quite well as a prospect. And one thing that a lot of people tend to do when I do role plays with them is they slip into me being me versus the prospect that I'm being. You did not do that once. So I felt like that was a really good that you stayed to the fact that I was just being your prospect, not just we were not role playing.
Active listening right there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Prime example of how you use that.
Yeah. Very, very good example of using active listening. Okay. Another thing that this is actually what won me over as a prospect. You complimented me a lot. This won me over as a prospect. You were saying, well, it sounds like you're already doing those kind of things. You know, that won me over. Take a note, everyone in this room. Okay. But he didn't do it in excess. It wasn't like blanket compliments, like, oh, you sound like the most amazing person I've ever met. You know, it wasn't stuff like that. It was, he was doing what it was, and then he was giving, you know, just some, hey, you know, it's from what it sounds like based on what I've heard, you're already doing that kind of thing. Yeah. It was it wasn't subtle. It definitely wasn't subtle. It was definitely there, but it was to a point where it was just not excessive. And I didn't feel the need that I had to thank him for every compliment that he gave me. It was just like, yeah, I am. And then we just kind of connected more on that. It was just incrementally. I wouldn't call it subtle. I would call it incremental. So I thought that was incredibly good. That's what won me over. And it was over the point of it was over the whole course of the call. It wasn't like at the end of the call.
Right.
It was all over the course of the call. The way that he was saying the things that he was saying and building in the compliments to go with it worked out very well. It was very well constructed. So there was that.
I think that's a lot of showing the prospect that you are listening to them by saying, hey, this is where I can believe you would probably be. Is that right? Because I've heard what you're saying. It helps build a stronger connection.
Right. And that is, I gotta say that, like I said, just that overall, I felt very listened to. I didn't feel like I had to go and repeat myself a million times. That was very good. I don't need to point out the double questions thing because you pointed it out yourself. So that's good. But there are two questions that I felt like you just completely didn't even go into. One, I felt like you could have asked me more about my girl because I told you that she was on the fence about the stuff and this, that, and other. And I felt like you could have asked a little bit more, like, well, for what reason did she have a reason to be on the fence, or just something like more about that. And then later on in the call, I told you that she had went through something very similar, but that was the second thing I felt that you should have elaborated more on. You didn't. You just completely dismissed that. And I felt like that you could have gotten a lot out of that from her experience with the thing that she did. So I'm using no, I didn't use my perspective. I was using hers. Hey, could you mute yourself? I'm in a process of giving some.
Randy, please.
Or you could leave. That works too.
That's all right.
Anyway, so I felt like you could have asked about those. I felt like that was really important that you just didn't ask about.
No. See, there's one of my failings that sometimes I get too focused on the person that I'm talking to, and I don't spread out around them. So I need to pay more attention to that for sure.
Yeah, I definitely felt like you could have, because obviously that's important to me because I brought it up twice, and you just didn't ask me anything about it. So I just kind of was like, all right.
First time we mentioned it, you brought up specifically that she worries about it because there are a lot of scams.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I could have asked then if she felt like she had been scammed before or something. I could have done that.
Right. Yeah. I just felt like there was just more you could have dug into about that. This was another major miss. And I was surprised you missed this one. I think you were just kind of enthralled in the conversation, but you never asked me how much I was making a month or what I was looking to make. I was very surprised you didn't ask me that.
Why?
I'm sorry?
I don't know why you would be surprised from the prospect's perspective that it wasn't asked about, because initially you were talking about just wanting a change, wanting to do something different, wanting to, grow from where you were.
Yeah, I did. But I also said that if I could find something that I was making the same amount of money that I'm making or more, then I would be more than happy to do that.
Right.
And I felt like that would have been a good point to ask me, well, how much are you currently making?
Yeah, I definitely could have.
I just felt like there was just something that you could have asked me.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially because we had a really solid rapport.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just a little surprised. I'm not saying it was detrimental to the call. Obviously, it wasn't. It's just something I felt that could have easily been asked this prospect because we had a really strong rapport.
I didn't read near as well as I could have then, because I just really didn't think that it was, on the top tier of importance to want to pull out.
Okay, that's fair. That's completely fair. I don't see a reason why that logic is faulty. It's just from my perspective, I just felt like that was just something you could have asked.
Yeah, for sure.
More, if anything else, just because we had a really strong rapport,
right,
and I was answering everything you asked.
And I could have found out that it was more important than I had assumed based on the other conversation if I'd asked as well. So definitely.
Right, which comes back to the projection issue.
Yep. Yeah,
so
it does.
There's that. But other than that, I know this is a lot of notes.
No, I love it. I need it. I don't get things like this very often from people. I'm happy.
All right, cool. So, You asked me about my goals. You asked me about what I wanted. I was very glad you did that. That was. I was almost afraid that you wouldn't ask because you didn't ask about my finances. But you did ask about my goals, and I felt that that was quite good. I do feel that you could have dug a little bit more into my goals though, because I know I made the joke about playing more video games, and this is where you connected on the video game part, which was cool. But I said spend more time with my girl, right?
Hmm.
But I almost felt like, well, that was like ripe opening to be like, whoa, what do you mean? You know, like right there, it
Right?
just was something that just kind of missed. Obviously, that was important because I mentioned it in my goals. So just one of those things that, again, something related to my girl was completely overlooked. But either way, again, not detrimental to the call, just pointing it out. And the end of the call, I don't really have many notes on. I felt like you handled that really well, actually. Um, yeah, I don't really have much notes on the way you close the call at all. That was pretty straightforward. And obviously, you read that the prospect was clearly interested in what you had.
Hmm.
Your reads were on point, very on point. And your timing and your questions were good. You didn't ask anything that felt awkward, so that was good. And the pacing of the call was perfectly fine. And this is actually more of a closer note than it is anything else. But I actually very much appreciated that you didn't hit me with a time limit in the beginning of the call. You know how
Mm.
people say, "Oh,
Yeah.
we got about 30 minutes." I hate that shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I appreciated it from a closer standpoint that you didn't do that. I do it because it helps. I do it with like people because it helps with them having somewhat of a format. But when I'm on actual calls, I never say that because I don't know how long a call is going to be. I don't have a clue. So I do keep control of the time, but I don't say a time. So I appreciated that more from a closer's perspective that you didn't slam me with,
Mm.
"Oh, we got about 30 minutes." You know, I'm just much preferred that.
Yeah. I
Um,
don't use it on real calls very often either.
okay, cool. So yeah, that's all my notes. All in all, very solid, very solid call. So I didn't want to be like an overbearingly difficult prospect. I wanted people to see, for anyone who listens to this in the future, I wanted people to see what it would be like. Because if you noticed, I did have skepticisms during the call,
Mm.
and Don handled them very well. So it wasn't like I was giving flat out and out objections, just like, yeah, well, I don't, this price just sucks. I don't think it's worth that. Whatever. Um, but I did have my objections and I did have my skepticisms, but he handled them very well. Um, Another note that you guys could take from this is the way that when I asked him if he had went through the course and he had given his viewpoint, this is actually a very pivotal point in the call because I am now asking him for his opinion. All right, which will happen on calls. It will happen. People will ask you for your opinion. Hey, have you done this? Or uh, what was your experience, et cetera, et cetera. People will ask these questions. And if he had been like light-footed about it, he would have lost me completely. I just any rapport that he had built with me, he would have lost if he had just kind of tiptoed around answering my question. And this is a very important part of the call because at any point where your prospect is asking for your opinion, don't shy away from giving it, especially if it's in relation to yourself. If hopefully that makes sense, especially if it's in relation to yourself. Now, your opinion about what they should do, that's a different matter. Okay. Because that's not why you're there. It's not your job to give them advice. Right. And I wasn't asking him for advice. I was just asking his experience. So it's a really important point of the call. Uh, so if you go back and listen to this, definitely pay attention to how he handled that because that was a very good way to handle it. Just be honest.
Appreciate it.
Plain and simple.
I've heard some
So
people use that for like some sort of BS future pacing. Well, when you get started, you're going to see this and this and this. Instead of just being honest with their own story.
right, which is exactly what I wanted, and I was being incredibly genuine when I told him that if I felt like he was wasting my time, I would have hung up on him very early. Uh, Nothing about that was an exaggeration. I would have definitely have hung up on him. but there was no reason to. So he was being genuine when he spoke his end, and I could tell that. So all in all, like I said, very solid call. Yeah, some criticisms, but overall, very good.
Appreciate it.
So just because you guys heard me give him a lot of critiques does not mean it was not good. It was very good. It's just that I feel like I don't want to sound arrogant by saying this, but it's just that when you reach a certain level, you can find problems with even the best people.
Yeah, and when we're at that level, we want them found. That's the only way to refine.
Yes, exactly. We want them found. We want them found. So this was a very good call, and I hope that everyone who heard it takes a lot of notes and go back and listen to it again. Hell, listen to it more than once, because this was basically a masterclass in how you close a person who has some skepticisms. It just is, you know. And I know that some closers may have problems with people who are skeptical or whatever. And if you guys do, you need to listen to this call. Period.
I appreciate it. I will get the recording of this uploaded and situated, and a link pinned in the announcements section here, so everybody will have access to it.
Yep. But yeah, excellent job done. Excellent job done. Seriously. I didn't expect anything less, of course. Just saying, like, I didn't expect anything less. Just saying, in general, it's like, yeah.
I don't assume you'd have partnered with me if you didn't think I was on level enough to teach.
That's true.
I respect your Ruby enough to know better than that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, come on, man.
All right. Before I stop the recording, does anybody else have anything that they would like to add in to what they heard, or any questions that they'd like asked?
Yeah, if you got any questions, this is the right time to ask.
I have a question for it. Do you guys usually do this often, every week, or is it once for every while? Just want to know.
We don't do this every week. This was I just happen to have time, and Don happened to have time, so we were like, you know what? Let's just throw this together. I know it's last minute, but let's just do this because Vic actually wanted to hear the script at work, and I figured, well, what better example to use than myself as a person to use the script on? So that's when we came up with the idea to do this.
Awesome. And my last question, I found this very valuable, or one of these you guys do last role play with Muko, I find very valuable. Is it okay if I share with somebody else from outside of this community?
I don't really have a problem with it.
Neither do I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, not at all. If you want to spread around our reputation, you're happy to do so.
I am more than willing to let you do that. So I would even encourage it. I would even encourage, like, hey, if you know closers that, are maybe interested in this kind of thing, definitely pass it on.
Awesome. And because, I just have a question because one of your videos on private, so just want to ask. But
yeah.
Thanks.
A lot of the videos I have on private, but anybody with the link can still see them. So I don't mind most of it being shared. I just have it that way so that it's not randomly found on YouTube with a bunch of fools making their comments on it.
Right.
All right.
So.
All right.
Anyone else have any questions or thoughts or anything like that?
I'm going to go ahead and kill the recording here then.
Okay.